but they wondered if it might be possible to create an even more luxury vodka brand. Hello and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time, or two medium bottles today. I'm your host, Tammy Coxon. One of the things I've learned through My Tiny Bottles is that there are a lot of liquor companies in the US that most of us have probably never heard of, but that have had an outsized influence on the industry. I talked about Jacans in the episode about Bottle 104, Wild Spirit, and now I've got another one, Phillips Distilling Company. Their story starts in 1912 with Ed Phillips and Son, a candy, newspaper, and magazine wholesaler in Wisconsin. Immediately after Prohibition, they moved to Minneapolis and switched to selling alcohol. They gained exclusive distribution rights for both Hiram Walker and Schenley, two of the largest producers of the time, and by the end of World War II, they were the largest spirits distributor in the US. Surprisingly, the place they would have the most influence on was vodka. They launched Phillips Vodka in 1947, which is pretty close to the dawn of vodka time in the US, and were the first to release a line of flavored vodkas in 1957. In 1971, they released Ginka, a happy blend of gin and vodka that was apparently wildly popular. And then in 1995, they created the luxury vodka market with the release of Belvedere and Chopin. More on that later. Another first for Phillips was their release of Phillips peppermint schnapps in 1935. America's first schnapps, it was the creation of Phillips salesman Al Dorsch, who took inspiration from seeing Minneapolis saloon patrons dropping peppermint candies into the poorly aged whiskey they were drinking. I found two bottles from Phillips and Grandma's collection, and they're both these larger 200 milliliter flasks. Bottle 106 is Phillips 5-star Brandy, and bottle 107 is Phillips Snowshoe Grog, a mix of brandy and peppermint schnapps. I found a website claiming a release date of 1963 for the Snowshoe Grog. The company sold brandy of various kinds before that, but the 5-star label starts to appear in advertising in the 1970s. Both bottles bear the tagline "Enjoy in Moderation," which Phillips added to their bottles in 1975, and the company would go on to have entire advertising campaigns about alcohol safety. My bottles are younger still, with tack strips indicating they are from 1983 to 1985. The mid-1980s was an eventful time for Phillips. The founder, Ed Phillips, sold the company to Alco Standard in 1971. His grandson, Eddie, was hired by Alco and eventually became the head of their beverage business. Then, when Alco decided to get out of the beverage industry in the 1980s, Eddie figured out how to buy the family company back. In doing so, he sold off the distributorship side of the business and focused instead on the production and marketing side. With vodka such a backbone of the family business, Phillips was impressed by the splash Absolut had made when it was released in the 1980s. But they wondered if it might be possible to create an even more luxury vodka brand and launched a new related business called Millennium Import Company with that goal in mind. In 1995, Millennium became the sole licensee of two Polish vodka brands, Belvedere and Chopin, and basically created the luxury vodka category by pricing them well above their competitors. This is a tried and true strategy, as I talk about in bottle number 1, Maker's Mark, and bottle 62, Ron Coco. But in 2001, the Polish government completed a long process of privatization of the formerly monopoly-owned vodka distilleries and brands. And if Phillips wanted to keep Belvedere, they would have to actually buy the brand outright, not just license it. In some magic of capitalism that I don't quite understand, Millennium raised the capital to do this by spinning off the production part of the company into a business run by Eddie's adopted son, Dean Phillips. Meanwhile, Millennium partnered with the luxury brand conglomerate LVMH to market Belvedere around the world, and eventually sold the Millennium Company to them in 2005. Today, Phillips Distilling lives on as a family-owned operation. Dean Phillips was the president and CEO from 2000 to 2012 before leaving to run another of the family's business investments, Talenti Gelato, and eventually entering a life in politics. He was elected to Congress in 2018, served 3 terms, but did not seek re-election in 2024. He did, however, challenge Joe Biden in the 2024 primary. As notable as that might make him, he's not even the most famous person in his family. His grandmother, Pauline Phillips, wrote under the pen name Abigail Van Buren, or, as you might know her, the famous newspaper advice columnist Dear Abby. Which is just another one of those fun rabbit holes I never expected to fall down when I discovered these bottles in Grandma's collection. Can't say I'm expecting anything particularly groundbreaking when I get a chance to taste them, but I definitely appreciated their story. Press About Snowshoe Grog describes it as the original outdoorsman favorite blend, and I have the perfect Minnesota outdoorsman in mind to taste this one with me. So be sure to subscribe so you can find out who that is. Also, leave a like or comment when you're down there. Or go to mytinybottles.com to leave a comment or find out more about these bottles and all the bottles. And of course, you'll find me on social media at mytinybottles on Instagram and Facebook and at TammyLC on Blue Sky. Cheers!